So, welcome to tonight's podcast on crystals and everything have been curious about or have been wanting to know. And let's get started. We have some people in the room, and we have you out there. I do read the comments, which is why I have the glasses on right now. So if you have questions, comments, you can put them, and as we go along, I will be able to answer. Now, I want to always start with a little bit of where does this all come from? Now, crystals have been around since the day the earth was formed, right? So some of them are extremely old. They're found in every corner of the earth, which is very interesting because it's not more one place or another. And new crystals are still being discovered today. So we haven't discovered all the treasures that the earth has to offer. The crystals, people will refer to certain crystals as vibrational holders, yes? But more than that, crystals particularly, now we're not talking about rocks, we're talking about crystals. Crystals are alive entities. They are sentient beings. They have a consciousness to them, which means they do speak and they do communicate with us. And it is the reason why they have healing properties. It's because there's a sentient being behind them. So we're going to go into that. Now, crystals have been historically and archaeologically found both for cosmetic and ritual purposes in every cultures on the planet. They've been around since the Neolithic graves. In ancient texts that are dating 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, so we're going back quite far, thinking that the Chinese started inventing writing 3,000 years ago. Just try to see how far back we're going. They were using the lapis lazuli and the jasper to cure illness in a person. And bloodstones were used for disease of the blood. The rhodochrosite is used to actually stop bruising. So obviously, it's very interesting because if you have a very large bruise and you're putting smaller crystal on the bruise, it's going to shape the shape of the crystal, and the bruise will be gone, but the bruise will still be on the outskirt of it. So, they were part of first aid. So as you were carrying these rocks, it was quite heavy, but nonetheless, they all served a function. Now, crystals are mentioned in every religious text that it is from Iraq or even in the Bible. In the Bible, in the Old Testament, they speak of a breastplate that the Jewish priests would have to wear when they were holding ceremonies or having mass or the equivalent of, such. These breastplates were made of different stones, and the stones were said to speak to the priest as they were asking questions to the crystals. So it's interesting because the answers were not coming necessarily from God. They were asking the crystals. So they were looking for the consciousness of the crystal to answer them. Yes, very interesting. Yeah. Now in Lemuria, is the first great civilization that's been on Earth. Yes. So this one, all the buildings and all of the roads were made of crystal. They were using the electromagnetic forces of the planet, aligning them with the crystal's energy to amplify their own personal vibration. Now, what are we trying to do when we're using crystals or when we're doing meditation or when we're doing any spiritual exercise is we're trying to take the vibrations that we're at, which are usually pretty low, and we're trying to raise those vibrations higher up. Now, with the assistance of the fact that they walked on something that amplified their vibration and lived inside something that amplified their vibration, they were always in a heightened state, vibrational-wise. So they could accomplish things that we now seem to have lost the ability to do, like telekinesis, moving objects with our mind, or telepathy, communicating through our minds. Now, some people have this gift nowadays, but they're rare, far and few in between, where this was the common thing back in Lemuria. The pats were made of crystals, and also they used to wear crystals on their heads. Now, a lot of us will wear crystals on our hands, will wear crystal around our neck, but nobody is wearing it on their heads. Now, they were specifically doing so in order to enhance their third eye. The third eye being the chakra that allows you to receive messages and communicate messages. That those messages are communicated verbally, with feelings, or with images. It doesn't matter. They all go through this antenna of the third eye. And that's why the crystals were worn in that area, which is why kings and queens wear crowns embedded with jewels. It was actually not because, they needed a crown. It was because the idea behind it, they were going to wear these stones. These stones were going to amplify their ability to communicate with the universe and be guided by God, which in many countries, the kings are the representation of God on earth, and their hand was being guided by God. Right? I'm not seeing any ooh, but everybody's wearing masks, so it's really hard to read people with masks right now. Now, there we go. In Atlantis, which we're talking about a good 30,000 years further down the line, in Atlantis, they used the crystals even further and beyond that into their technology. Now, that's the big difference between Lemuria and Atlantis. Atlantis was technology-based, advanced-based. They wanted to accomplish, they built a machine, they wanted to accomplish things faster, easier, which was supposed to give you more time for your spiritual practice. But a lot of the spiritual got lost as we lose ourselves in technology. The use of the crystal helped them to do teleportation of bigger objects. So there's telekinesis, which you move the object in the same room from one spot to the other, but it's still in your visual field, as opposed to teleportation, which means you completely take an object and ship it somewhere where you're not, right? There's a big difference. The need and requirement for power is much, much, much bigger. The fact that they were utilizing all this energy and drawing from the Earth's energy, because that's what the crystals are drawing from, eventually led to the destruction of Lemuria. And then their experiment led to their own personal destruction. This is how Atlantis sank. They did this to themselves for the misuse of crystal energy. They were trying to do too much, drawing too much, and for the wrong purpose, which happens. So I'm going to explain vibrational energy, right? So you have the energy of love, you have the energy of joy, you have the energy of compassion. All of those resonate at a very high frequency. And the frequency is very sinusoidal. So it goes up and down, but very curvious waves. Everything is smooth. However, if the energy is used to harm and the energy is used to destroy, then there's no more vibrational rate that is balanced. And because it's out of balance, it creates shock waves and it creates earthquakes. And that's what led to the destruction of Atlantis. So if any of you want to read about the demise of Atlantis, you can read that in Plato. It's very well explained there, or you can watch the other podcasts on Atlantis and Lemuria. Now, how do we identify crystals from gemstones to minerals? Because those are all different things. The crystal starts as a liquid, and then it solidifies or crystallizes, and then you have a crystal. The true crystal, that's what they are. Crystals are pure substances. I'm having trouble tonight. Substance. And we humans are living in a third-dimensional world right now, but we are slowly shifting towards the fifth-dimensional area where we will become crystalline form. We will become more liquid than solid. The minerals are created with the Earth's crust. They're defined as inorganic solids. So if it's inorganic, it's not alive, as opposed to crystal are, which is why they're sentient beings and they have consciousness, and minerals do not. Minerals belong to Mother Earth and are part of Mother Earth, and therefore they have a much higher consciousness as a whole, as the whole planet, right? So it'd be the same thing as saying a hair or a fingernail. Well, they're all part of me in by itself. They don't have thought. They don't have consciousness. But me as a whole, I do. Okay, so that's what minerals are. Examples of mineral are apatite, azurite, kunzite, chrysocolla. They're usually multicolored. They have lots of colors mixed in, as opposed to a crystal, except maybe fluorite, which has 3 colors. They're usually one color. Citrine are usually yellow. The amethysts are usually purple, violet. There's not usually a gradient of color mixed in. So that's one way to identify a mineral. A mineral is also solid. You won't be able to see through it, right? So they're very dense, and you can't see through them. And then there are rocks. Rocks are made of the Earth's core, and it's the different temperature, degree, and pressure that will create different rocks. So when someone says the expression, look at my rock, and they're pointing to the diamond on their engagement ring or their pendant, they're actually, the diamonds are rocks. Diamonds can't talk to you. So we are thinking that the precious things are diamonds, when really the crystals, technically, spiritually level, is more precious. Lucky for us, because crystals are a lot cheaper. And so readily more accessible and much more easier to work with than diamonds. The 4 most precious gemstones are diamond, emerald, ruby, and sapphire. So the emeralds are the green, the ruby is the red, the sapphire is the blue, and the diamond is see-through. Or, depending on quality, could have some tones of colors, yeah? But a gemstone which has achieved this purity then can be considered a crystal by some. But remember, it comes from the rock, and therefore, for our purposes, is not. Because there's what you find on the internet, and it gets very confusing. And I'm trying to clarify some and debunk some of the stuff that you may read on the internet. Well, they're saying those are crystals. No, they're not. They're gemstones. They're made of stones. So there's power to them. There's a frequency to them, sure. But there's no consciousness, right? Now, moving on. The poisonous stone. We thought it was important to mention that some stones are actually poisonous. Those few examples are cinnabar and malachite. If you actually touch these stones, they do release a poison. And so knowledgeable rock and gems and crystal sellers will tell you, I can sell it to you, but it's usually behind the counter. You have to ask for them. And they specifically tell you, don't take it out of the plastic. Because touching this stone slowly releases the poison. So you'll poison yourself if you start playing with it. That you're asking yourself, why would anybody want these stones if they're poisonous? Because cinnabar is known to bring wealth. So people think, oh, I'll put it in my purse, I'll play with it, I'll meditate with it, and that's the last thing you want to do. There are derived form of these crystals that are available and that are non-poisonous. Chris, what's the cinnabar version? Non-poisonous one?
I think it's cinnabrite.
Right?
It's tumbled.
Yes, cinnabite?
Cinnabrite.
Cinnabrite, and it's a tumble form. So that one is a derivative of the cinnabar without the poison. So do your research before you just start picking everything and playing with everything. Some stones require you to handle them with care. Now, there's rarer stones than diamonds. Now, there was a time where someone found diamonds and they had a lot of them. And so they created an appearance that you had to have a diamond to give your fiance, and that meant she was special. And they tried to tell people that they were very rare, and that's why they were so expensive. Actually, that's a lie. Diamonds are actually not rare. What's very rare, there are stones that are that we found that we like to work with. For example, coverlite is super rare. And we had to look all the way on the East Coast, Canada, United States, and all the way on the West Coast until we finally found some samples in Mount Shasta. Now, the size of a coverlite, okay, I'll just, about this size. So we're talking about the tip of your finger, right, to the first knuckle. For a citrine, that would cost about $1, okay, for this size. For the coverlite, it cost me 45. Right? So the size, when I tell you guys size doesn't matter when it comes to crystal, it is true. Its size does not matter. It's what is it made of and what's the frequency and what is it going to do for you. And I'm going to go into it later why we were so adamant about finding Cobalite and why we search for it so much. One of the reasons is that it's a very, it's a rock that it's really hard to tumble because it's like this one. It's just
Fragile.
It's fragile. So by the time you actually get you take a big rock and you don't get much out of it. So when you're buying a tumble stone, you're actually paying for the original weight of that stone that's been tumbled down to the tumble stone. Yeah. I actually have a Cobalite that is raw, and it's about the size of the palm of my hand. And that cost me like $250. But it's an amazing piece, and it's got all the shades of the rainbow, and it looks like a dragon scale, and it's just like marvelous. But if I were to tumble that, I would have probably end up with something this small. It's discouraging sometimes. So that's why we left it in its raw form. And because that it is raw or that it is tumble, it actually has the same energy and it has the same frequency. So when you go to the crystal store, it's your mind that says, oh, this one's pretty. So you're paying more money for a tumble stone when you can grab a raw piece of rose quartz for like 25 cents and it would do the same job. So today we're going to debunk these myths about, how things are not supposed to be perfect and things are not supposed to be straight and beautiful and polished, because that's not how they come in nature. And you want them as close as you can to nature. I have a cool story to tell you in a minute about that. So, should I go into that story now?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So I'm at the store, and it's a
warehouse.
It's a warehouse, and so there's a 2-shelf unit by the till for things that have been chipped or broken. So as gross sellers, they can't sell those things because then people who own stores can't resell them. But sometimes we'll pick stuff off the shelf for ourselves, like incense that's been broken. Okay, you can't sell that in the store, but we can still use it in our home, and we don't care, right? And because we're paying 10 cents on the dollar kind of thing, so it's really worth it. And so I have a quick look at the shelf, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need anything. So I turn around to go to the till, and I hear really loudly, and I'm not going to try to scream too loud, but hey, don't leave me here. So I look around because it's clearly, so human as a voice. It's incredible. I'm thinking, is there a child here somewhere? It's just, what's going on? So he's like, no, I'm right here. So I'm turning, because I can hear the voice coming from the shelf. So I'm looking at the shelf. I'm like, okay, who's talking to me? And he's like, I'm right in front of you. Literally, he was right in front of me. And it was a fluorite obelisk, about 2.5 inch, 3 inch tall. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, okay, so why are you there? He says, because nobody wants me. And I'm like, why would nobody want you? I got a chip. And I'm looking at this crystal, and I'm trying to find the chip, and I really can't find it. And I'm like, okay, well, hang on a minute, because it's not like Sonia doesn't have crystals. Yeah, we'll agree. I'm growing them like mushrooms. So the thing is, do I need another crystal? And the answer is clearly no. So before I spend another however money on crystal, I'm going to ask myself, why should you be coming home with me? So I asked the owner, I said, so why is this one on the shelf? Oh, she said, can you not see? There's a chip here, here, and here. 2 of them were on the base, so if you lay it on the shelf, you wouldn't even see it. And I couldn't spot the other chip. This is how minimal it was. And because of that, again, I'm paying this crystal 10 cents on the dollar. So I'm like, oh, dude, okay, fine, I'll take you home. But more so, it was the first time that I out loud heard a crystal talk to me. Actually talk to me. Now, I've heard crystals hum. I've heard crystals vibrate. I've heard a whole bunch of stuff. But it was the first time I had a crystal mature enough to actually talks to me. So I took it home, and I'm like, okay, so what do you got to say? What do you got to teach? And so we sat with each other, and we learned an important story. And he says, would you say that someone in a wheelchair or someone who's amputated a foot or a hand is now to be thrown to the garbage or ignored or left aside? I said, no, of course not. They're just as as a human as anybody else, and they can just as well contribute in their own way. I mean, it's not because you're in a wheelchair. I mean, how many people are in a wheelchair who have jobs, right? Because we're allowing them, because we open those doors to these people, and they're saying, no, come on in. Sure, you want to work, go to work, right? And so this crystal is the same with crystals. Even if we're chipped, or if there's a dent or a crack, if you treat us with love and care, we're still working. We still have these energies to give out, and we still have the wisdom to teach. And I'm like, this is incredible. This is fantastic. So I said, what do you want to do? He says, well, I know you're a healer, and I want to heal with you. And so now he's part of all my healing sessions. And it's very, very powerful crystal. And yet he was being dismissed because he wasn't perfect. So we're going to talk about how do we select crystals? How do we get to, choosing the right one, knowing that now we can choose them with our eyes closed. We're not looking for the perfect crystal. We're not looking for a certain size. We're looking for the energy and the frequency that works and resonates with us. Something that Dr. Marcel Vogel has discovered. This man was a researcher and a scientist, and he was one of the leading developers of computer technology at IBM. He's the one that has all the original patents for things like crystal using LCD, your screens and stuff, they're made of crystals, lasers, magnetic coating for computer disk drives, and crystal used in healing beds. This man, he has to have been a reincarnation from Atlantis, because he's bringing all these things. This is one man creating all these dimensions all around crystals, all for the good, all for the betterment of what we do and how to get healthier. After he retired, he started creating jewelry based on the Vogel principle. So certain specific cuts in crystals embedded with the cuts of sacred geometry, enhancing the power of the crystal with sacred geometry. Most of it are pendants. As far as I know, I don't think he makes anything else other than pendants. And they're not that expensive, but they're pricey a little bit. It's not for everyone. So I'm going to show you a different way to reproduce a Vogel true crystal grids, which are the much, much, much cheaper version of it. Now, how do we use crystal in healing? Hello, you guys. It's nice of you guys to watch and joining us. The crystal have their own properties on how they can work. So therefore, you have to read about the crystals. Before you go and buy something, or you buy something because it's cute or it looks good or matches your room, ask yourself, am I going to be using it other than a decorative purpose? So before you go buying the crystals, you should research, what is it that actually could serve my purpose? What is it could be good for me? And then go look for that crystal. So it's the reverse process. So instead of impulse buying, you do research buying. So you buy what really works for you in the circumstances that you're in. There's simple ways on how to use the crystals on your everyday life. You can use the crystal in your purse, in your bra. For men, they often have pockets that you can carry them in. Or I've got 6 brothers, so we've come with intuitive ways of wearing these crystals so they can have them with them. They'll wear a pouch around their neck, and they'll put the crystal in the pouch. Or they'll wear them as bracelets, right? So that it's easier for them to wear the crystals that way, yeah? So there's no particular way that it has to be done, but the more the crystal is in proximity of you, the more effective it's going to be in affecting your own personal frequency, which is what they do when they heal you. They're matching the frequency of the crystal, which is the proper frequency, into your body. And then what it does is it eventually copy each other's frequency and restores the healthy frequency that was in the first place lost. Through stress, through lack of nutrition, poor nutrition, lack of sleep, all of those things are affecting your frequency. And the crystals are trying to help you cope with whatever in your life at the moment is throwing you off. If, for example, if you have trouble sleeping, you don't need to carry it to bed with you. You would just put the amethyst, which we have a nice big sample here. You just put it on your nightstand or by your bed, and you would let it do its work. It will help restore your brain frequency to a rest and peaceful frequency. And so therefore, you will get a good night's sleep. That's how they work. They work in proximity. So they don't have to be in the bed with you. They don't need to be that close, but the closer the better. Yes. At the office, some of you work in office and you have the same office every day that you go to. You have your own space. You can have certain crystals to diffuse the electromagnetic energy created by the computers. Especially in an office, there'll be multiple computers, and then everything is now functioning on Wi-Fi. So you have your phone, and you have everybody's phone in the office, and then you have the printers that are Wi-Fi, and then you have all the computers. And even though they're not Wi-Fi, all the wires are creating an electromagnetic field that is affecting you and your energy. So it's okay that you could put, I would say malachite would be a good one. Malachite provides protection and vitality. If you're at home and you're working on stress or emotional healing, what was an example of emotional healing that we can think of? I, for one, lost a pet. So, you know, I had created a huge hole in my heart. So rose quartz was very helpful in, you know, soothing this pain.
Broken relationship.
A relationship, right? So that would work. Emotional healing can also be from just being stuck in traffic or, you know, there was a time when I used the SkyTrain and I would be stuck for 45 minutes sitting in the air and I'm claustrophobic. That was not a good day for me. So that threw me off completely. So going home and meditating with a rose quartz helped reset the vibrational body, emotional body from stress to pause. So the light helps for concentration and mental performance. Citrine are a lovely stone because they're self-charging stones. So some people are like, oh, crystals are too much trouble because you have to re-energize them, and I keep forgetting to put them in the window or do this and that. But citrine are self-energizing as well as sunlight. Now, citrine are easy to identify. They're usually yellow. And selenite is a white, not quite see-through, but usually feels like there's filament or strings inside. So that's an easy way to recognize the selenite. So those are self-charging crystals. So if you selenite, the crystal expert is actually sitting at the back of the room, and she's helping out, which is, she's coaching, which is nice. Yeah, this should be her sitting here with you guys right now, but she doesn't like the front stage, so I'm doing this with her assistants. And the fluorite is the clearing for the work environment's energy field. Fluorite it has shades of either clear, purple, or green. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you'll have all three, and it's very beautiful. That's the one you can actually have at work. What's the black one?
Shungite.
Shungite, yes. Shungite is an extremely powerful one in order to clear and create a barrier between all the electronics in you. So I have a very, very long, elongated rectangle that sits at the base of my laptop. And so everything just stays on this side of the bubble, and on my side of the bubble, I'm clear. Okay? It's electromagnetic field are created by anything that has TV, antennas, radio station, mobile phone base, your printer. You're surrounded by them. We have the normal electromagnetic of the earth, which is what we're trying to go back to by using the crystal. That's why crystals work, because that's the healthy electromagnetic field that we should be part of. The crystals will absorb the wrong field and restore the proper resonance that we want to stay healthy. The other ones that can protect us and restore electromagnetic field are, you might want to write this down, kunzite, amazonite, fluorite, and jasper. So all around a cheap stone, fluorite does quite a bit. And this is what you want to research sometimes. It's like, okay, so you have 3 or 4 stones that can do this, But what are the other properties of these stones? Can I use them somewhere else? Can they be more beneficial to me other than in just that one instance? Taking the time to do the research, even online, as far as properties of crystals go, they're usually very accurate. That's not where I get most of the misinformation. The misinformation usually will come when it's time to care for them or how to energize them. But as far as their properties, that's usually pretty even. Now, the other way you can heal with crystals is through the chakras. And I just realized today that I never did a podcast on chakras. So there's me assuming everybody knows about chakras. And I apologize, and that'll be added to the list of future podcasts. So you have several chakras in your body. If you want to know more, though, in this instant, there's the book of 13 chakras of the ancient Egyptian system that I wrote. So you can always refer to that. And it speaks to two different kinds of crystals you can use. The ones that are the right color matching the chakras that you're trying to heal. For example, if you are trying to boost yourself, your self-esteem or your talents, or you're going for an interview, you would go for a yellow stone. This is the book right here, just for those who are interested. It's available on Amazon. And then there's also a frequency. So those don't match in color, but they match in frequency. In the book, we list several stones, several options of crystals. Therefore, if you don't have a lot of money, some of them are very common that you most likely already own. And it's just a matter of working with them. So you don't always have to go back to the store and buy more and buy more and buy more. You'd be surprised how you could work with 5 or 6 stones and do incredible things because they're interlacing each other and they have more than one function. Yes? So now we're going to the purchase. Now we've researched what we're trying to work on. Let's say, for example, I bruise easily, and it's becoming a real issue. And so I'm going to go and get the rhodochrosite. That's a stone that's pink with black splashes in it, and maybe a little bit of white. The best one would be a flatter one, but a round one would work. But it's just the bigger the surface that you can apply over the bruise, the better it is. So now you know exactly what kind of stones you want, and you know what it's going to be for. So you know what application you're looking for. So in this instance, I'd recommend a palm stone, which are usually flatter and a little bit rounder. And the reason why they call palm is they usually will fit or be just about the size of your palm. Yes. And then you go to the store and you look specifically for that. But you get to the store and there's 5 of them. You don't need 5, you need 1. But which one should you buy? Now, you can trust your intuition. Your intuition would be the first hint on how to pick a crystal. That would be the best way for you to determine which one calls to you. This brings me to the second way you can find a crystal. I hear them buzz. I hear them sing. I hear them vibrate. Therefore, that's the one I will pick. Obviously, I already have a connection with that one particularly. For those of you who have Reiki, you turn your Reiki on. Scan the crystal. The one that's going to respond, you're going to feel a heat. You're going to feel a tingling. You're going to feel something going on. You're going to go, oh, wow, that's the one. And if you think you're looking like a fool in a store, I guarantee that 90% of the people buying stones and crystals do exactly that. So you're not out of this world at all. Also, you can use your senses, your eyes. I often see this, although they're all the same stones, the same crystal, one of them shines brighter than the other one. The other one has a shine to it, has a brightness to it that the other ones don't have. And for those of you who doubt your intuition, you can just simply use a pendulum and go with the pendulum and see which one is going to react to the pendulum. Don't have a pendulum? Anything on a chain is a pendulum. It's really, really simple, right? So if the pendulum reacts and starts moving, that's the stone for you. Now, yes, I'll talk about that in a bit. Taking your crystal home. After you purchase your crystal, it's all nicely wrapped, you go home, you're all excited. No, you can't start working with it. It doesn't happen that way. Your crystal have been cut, they've been shaped. Sometimes they've been washed with acid. Sometimes, and like this cluster here, it was broken and cut from a much bigger piece. They've been separated from the rest of their family. They're hurt. And this is where the importance of realizing that they're conscious, sentient being. They're suffering. So they're willing to go home with you, but they're expected to be treated with respect and love and having special attention. Right? So bringing a crystal home means that I would recommend, now obviously you all have free will, you all do what you want, but I would recommend that you bury them in a flower pot. Why? If you say, oh, I have a backyard, I'll put them in the backyard, forget it. They're going to be gone. They will spin their web and you're going to have to dig 3 feet to find them. Oh yeah, seriously, they really dig into the ground. You will lose your crystal, which is why I recommend a pot of a plant, or just simply go buy a container and just put dirt in it and just allow those crystals to restore themselves and really anchor themselves back into this earth. They're going to get dirty. It's okay. They don't care. Let them sink for a good 30 days. 30 days. Okay, a whole month of. And then after 30 days, you just wash them under the water. Not salt water. Why? Because salt water will damage crystals. Will damage them. So you know, I know on the internet they say, oh, use salt water or put them even in salt. Some of your crystals are going to come back out with literally holes in them. You know, it's like acid to them. So don't do that. Just simple water. Just give them a clean wash. And then you allow them to sit for the 3 nights. The one before the full moon, and after the full moon at nighttime, where they can get the rays of the moon on them. Not during the day. So in the morning, you'll have to remove the crystals from the sunlight. Why? Because in the sunlight, amethyst, citrine, smoky quartz will lose their color. So the beautiful crystal is losing part of who they are in the sunlight. So they're not meant to go in the sun. Another thing you'll find on the internet that I wanted to make clear to you tonight, don't do that. Yes?
There's some, though, that you can't wash. Are there not?
There are some that you can wash in salt water, and there are some that you can put in the sunlight. However, the likelihood of people in general knowing the difference, they don't. And then they will complain, my amethyst is now, barely pink. Okay, well, unless you know, don't take the chances. These are the things that are harmful, the salt water and the sunlight. And there's the other ways are very, very effective in restoring a crystal and re-energizing a crystal. So there's no reason why you would try to cut corners to get there faster. Give time to your crystal to link with you and be connected to you. It's okay. It's going to do plenty of work for you for a very, very long time. So there's no need to rush this relationship and shove it. It's just like an employee coming to work for you. You're not going to sit the employee there and go, have a good day, and walk away. No, you're going to train them. You're going to show them how the ropes work. You're going to give them a tour of the office. Well, it's the same thing. Remember, it's a conscious being, a sentient being. So welcome this being into your life and give it the time and respect and honor it deserves. And then the immense service it will give you is just unimaginable. But first, treat it right. Yes.
I think what Dee was trying to get at is like the selenite.
Yeah.
You can't put that underwater.
You can't. There's certain.
No,
crystals that can't
yes,
go
but
under.
that's, I think, is the only one that would melt in water, the selenite. And of course, I have some people who bought some salt, Himalayan salt lamps. And they're like, well, I'm trying to wash my lamp. My lamp is, it's salt. So salt melts in water. So not a good one. So, but I believe that selenite is the only one that won't withstand water. So, but I would still put it in the dirt, and I would accept it, and I would just dust it off and just leave it as is. Okay.
And it's self-cleansing too.
All right. So now, after the initial cleansing is done, what do we do after we use the crystals? Because there's the initial, just like when you're buying a home. I encourage you to get a blessing for the home. We encourage you to clear the past energies of the previous people that lived there. We encourage you to clear the ground of, there's been people that could have possibly been buried there because we've buried people for hundreds of thousands of years. So you're going to tell me that the particular parcel of land you bought is for sure free of anything? I doubt it, right? 400 years ago, they could have been a family fighting and killed there, right? So we encourage you to do a major cleansing. So this is the major cleansing for the crystals you're bringing home. But once you brought them home and you work with them, you have to help them cleanse themselves because unlike the citrine, they will suck the energy, but then there's no dispersing it. So we can do this with smudging. We can give them Reiki. We can place them in the moonlight. We can give them a sound bath with Tibetan bowl, a crystal ball. They love that. And personally, when I do some Reiki or shamanism Reiki and I lay a person on the table, I lay crystals all over them because the more the crystals are doing some work at pulling stuff out of the body, the less I have to work and I can concentrate in other areas. But after each healing session, I will cleanse the crystals. I'm not going to say, there's still 50% room in this one. I'm just going to leave it for the next guy. No, every person that gets off the table, I cleanse the crystals. So the crystals are fresh, recharged, ready to go. Capiche? Mm-hmm. Good. This is going well. Now, the other self-charging of the selenite, the citrine, and the clear quartz, they have a tendency to be able to do that. They can be used to clear other crystals, but I wouldn't get lazy, right? I wouldn't depend on these crystals to clear the other crystals. If you're using those crystals for healing, do take care of your tools, right? Of your co-workers, give them a good cleansing before using them again. Now, why are clear quartz so interesting? Well, first of all, they're extremely cheap. Yay for the low man. And the second thing is that they're programmable, right? Mm-hmm. So the difference between a crystal that is programmable and one that is not. Well, for example, we have this beautiful piece of fairy crystal here. It's magnificent. It's happy. It brings joy and has very particular qualities that it can work with. However, if you ask it to bring you money, it's not going to work because that's not what it's for. If you ask it to bring you health, it's going to look at you and say, I can make you happy. I can make you connect with your inner child. I can help you connect with nature. I can make you a better gardener, but I can't really make you happy or fall in love or, So the crystals have properties. As opposed to clear quartz do not. Clear quartz are programmable. So which is why we like to work with clear quartz, especially for crystal grids. For beginners, that's where we start. Because then there's no mixing of the stones and putting the wrong stones together, right? So you have to create your grid. Well, we're going into all that now. And after your grid is created, then you charge your grid. And then this grid works at sending energy to whatever purpose you decide to send it to. If I'm not clear, you will ask a question, yes? Yes. Okay. Almost there. For the storage, I want to give you an example. You can put the crystals in bags or containers. And usually when you buy a crystal, they'll usually come in a plastic pouch with what it is, the name, and the description of the properties. You might be tempted to just put them all in a nice wooden bowl. However, after a while, if you're like Chris and I, you will have hundreds, literally hundreds of different types. And then you're going to go, what's this one? What's the name of that one? And then unless you have a Chris like I do, who's going to look at it and say, oh, well, it's this thing, which is really cool. It's best if you keep them separate. And they love wood. They love to be separated. So wooden box is a great place to put them. But if you put them together, and I can't really flip this over to show you, but if we put more than a different kind together, we keep them individually wrapped. So they have all their little space. In storage, it's not that big of a deal because they're not working, they're at rest. But while they're working, you also have to pay attention to which crystal you're mixing with other crystals. Some crystals don't like other crystals in the sense that they produce different vibration. And different vibration can cancel each other out. So that's why we ask you first build with crystal quartz, which are clear, and they all work together and everybody's happy and it's one big happy family. And then as you learn more about crystals, then you can start mixing them. For example, if you're using red, yellow, orange, those type of crystals are meant to be waking you up. They're meant to make you very awake, thinking, so they get your brain working. And then if you go and put some blue and green stones in there, which are more about relaxation and calming you, they're going to counter each other out. So your grid's not going to give you nothing. Okay? Now, and I got a specific chapter on grid, so no worries, I will answer that question. I know where we're going with that. The other use for crystals is meditation. How does that work? You can have it in different ways. Obviously, here at the centers and the meditation rooms, we have them all over the place. They're literally like mushrooms. But you don't need that many. It's not essential for us to have a gazillion crystals, yes? Excuse me. The important is to have the ones that work with what you need the support. Okay? So if you have difficulty calming the mind, then surround yourself with the dark blue and purple crystals. If it's a physical thing, then you'll need red crystals around you, or the frequency of the base chakra. The specific stones for meditation that really help are usually associated with the third eye or the crown chakra. And if it's in your own home, I encourage you to make yourself either a small hat or a beanie, and then sew them on, just like a crown, and see the difference that it creates in your ability to focus your mental energies and how it quiets the mind. As well, it will focus your intentions. So if your intention is to create abundance, then go with some carnelian. If your intention is to call to you some peace, then go for a green stone like jade. If your intention is to communicate with your twin flame, then go with stuff like purple stuff like amethyst. Because the twin flame is not on a physical level, it's on an etheric level, and therefore you have to communicate through the crown, right? So focus your intentions and by amplifying the waves using the crystals. Bum, 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 bum. Now, the crystal grids. Here we are. So the crystal grids is a combination of sacred geometry with crystal energy. That's what the Vogel jewelry is. It's a crystal embedded with sacred geometry in it, in the different cuts made with lasers. However, they're expensive. You can do the same process using a sacred geometry picture and laying the crystals on it. The energy you're creating is exactly the same. In one case, you're wearing it around your neck, which is with you in your energy field all day long. The other one, the crystal grids, is associated to whatever topic or issue that you're trying to deal with. So you'll build your crystal grid. Underneath the crystal grid, first of all, you'll say, who is this for? Right? So is it for your company? Is it for you personally? Is it for your child? Is it for your dog? Because it's good for everything, yes? It could be for your garden. Then the intention. What's the intention? The dog's hip to get better, for you to receive continuous energy, or for you to help have mental focus at work, whatever the intention is. Now, don't go overloading the crystal grid with 25 intentions. If you have 25 intentions, I suggest you do more than one grid, or you take it one thing at a time. Okay? It's just, we go back to the employee, and you can ask the employee to show you some amount of work, and then you're loading this employee with the amount of work. And then you're going to say it's not working. Well, the employee is going to say, no, I just don't have time to do everything you're asking me to do in the amount of time you're asking me for. So it could be as simple as this. This is the seed of life, which represents creation. So the energy of the seed of life, if you're going to use this as your grid, you're going to use this to create something, right? So you're using the energy of the crystals, but amplified with the actual geometry that you're using. So select the appropriate geometry to go with what you're trying to do. So this is a good way to get stuff off the ground, or if you're trying to develop new ideas, or if you're in a creative, like when I'm trying to write a book, this would be the right geometric form to enhance my mental abilities. For the flower of life, it's more about connection, interconnectedness. So that's the one you would pick for relationship, the co-workers, or teaming up with others. Yes. Metatron's cube, another specific geometry, and those you can go listen to the podcast on sacred geometry, or you can actually do a search on the internet with these names, and you're going to get a million images pop up, and they're all accurate. And then you simply just print it from your printer, and I will show you where to lay the crystals on there. So Metatron's cube is representing of a journey, and it's tied to the elements. So if you're having difficulty being grounded, or if you're feeling really spacey, Metatron's cube is a good one. It's linking you to nature and profound healing powers. So if we're looking for healing, Metatron cube is the one that would go for. The Merkaba is another specific form. It's two triangle-shaped base pyramid kind of melting into each other, merging. And that one is for healing, protection, and balancing and connecting to your higher self. Now, once you determine which image, which grid is going to be the perfect one for you, then you see all these lines here, they connect at certain points. And so it's where it connects that you will put a crystal on. So in this one, we would put 6 crystal on the inside and 6 crystal on the outside. So to complete this grid, you will need to have a tower at the center. Now, your tower can be a round crystal, it could be a cluster, or it could be something like an obelisk or a pyramid. Now, obviously, you don't want something so big that it's going to overwhelm your entire grid. So would this amethyst cluster be good? Well, yeah, not really. It doesn't leave enough room for the other crystals to work. And again, it's not the size. It's really how they work together. So you have your centerpiece in the middle, and you have your other crystal, quartz crystal, pointing toward the center. You have put the name who it's for at the back. Now, taking this, we'll say we're trying a new job. We're starting a new job, right? And so this energy is for me, for this new job, to be able to adapt to my surroundings and to be able to get the job going and learn all these new tasks I have to learn. So this grid may only be valid for 1 month. Because after 1 month, now you've got your new beginning, you'll switch to the seed of life, the flower of life, to create interconnectedness at the office, create link with my coworkers, feeling accepted, feeling like I'm part of the family. Do you see how this goes? So one grid is not forever and ever. Usually they work within a month. Within a month, they've given you enough energy, enough momentum that then you're just, like a hot knife and through butter. It's just like, everything's done. Yes? All right. So now, in order to learn how to energize the grid, that's more part of a classroom. We teach those things in the class, the Reiki Level 3 or the Crystal Workshop that we now offer. But usually after a month, I invite you to revisit what did you create the crystal grid for? And see, man, this is it. It's answered my question. I have some grids that I've created in the past when I was going through the terrible divorce that I went through. And it was helping me stay calm. It was just helping me go through the upheaval of all the changes that were occurring. And so, that one I may have used more than once in the same year. Whenever a court date would happen, okay, so let's build energy for that, so that it goes smooth, and that it goes according to divine plan, and that, I don't get completely turned upside down, inside out through this procedure. You understand? So really be in touch with what's happening in your life and how things are going for you. Now, we talked about the crystals that don't work together because they cancel each other's frequency. However, there's other crystals who are amazing at working together. If you want to write that down, it's charoite. So CHAROITE. Covalite, COVELLITE. And sugilite, SUGILITE. Individually, these stones are incredibly powerful. They're rarer. They cost more money. But as the three of them come together, they help you connect to God. And they help you connect to the divinity inside of you. So they're incredible for guidance. They're incredible for meditation. They're fantastic when it comes down to finding your soul's purpose and putting it into action. So now you understand why Chris and I searched basically the entire North America, calling and looking at all these websites to find Covalite. And we couldn't find it anywhere until we ran into a shop and they had some, and we took everything they had. Yes. And so because the other thing that we do is that sometimes people are insecure in their grid building, and they actually ask us to build and energize the grids for them. And when something big or major happens to them and they don't feel like they have the energy for it, so we could have 3 or 4 or 5 different grids going on with different people. So the grid doesn't have to be for you personally. I could make a grid for Wanda here and just, help her with her own issue, and then a month later, getting back in touch and say, so how's that going for you? What's changed? What's improved? Where are we at? Right? So if you start doing crystal grid building, you can help just about anything. And if you would happen to have absolutely nothing to work on, which, eventually will happen. It's a thing to find this moment of, I don't need anything. And it's such a wonderful place to be. Then because you have the skills, then you can say for peace around the world, or for this conflict to resolve, or you can build energy for bigger, greater cause than your own, and expand this beautiful knowledge and ability to the rest of the community. Yes? Any more questions? See, I knew it. When it comes down to traveling, now, some of you are going to go, well, hang on a minute, rocks are getting pretty heavy. I agree. So I would travel with 2 personally. I travel with the one to help me sleep, because whenever I'm in a hotel or a strange place, or a place I don't know, I have difficulty sleeping. And that's a story for another day. But I connect with everybody in the other hotel rooms, and then, it's just, I end up having sleepless nights. So I will carry an amethyst with me to sleep. And I will also carry one of these, which is kyanite, because this disperses negative energy and it clears a room for you. So it's hard to go into a hotel room and start smudging in the hotel room, because then the smoke detector is going to go off, and you're not supposed to smoke in the room, and they get really, really upset, even if it's just smudging. So we do it with the help of a crystal. So those are the ones I travel with. But because I always am traveling, I'm always on the plane somewhere, usually. What I do is I take a picture of the grids I have at home, and I take the picture with me. Now, and I want to specify this. It has to be printed. It has to be an image that is not on your phone, because as you're trying to charge the grid or energize or connect with this grid, the phone interferes. So you want to, we talked about electromagnetic field, right? So you don't want to put a barrier in between what you're trying to accomplish. So simply take a picture, print the picture, and just fold that. That weighs nothing. Even backpackers can have pictures of their grid with them, and then the backpack is not so heavy. And that's how you stay connected through your energy grids, even though if you're not home and if you can't get to it every day. Yes? Fantastic. Now, paying it forward, because the crystals do not belong to you. Even though you paid for it and you took it home, it does not belong to you. The crystals have a certain purpose, and somehow you don't know why they hitch a ride with you, but that's all they were doing. They were just hitching a ride. And now they've met the person they want to go with, and you will hear them, I'd like to go with this person. And you're like, oh, and I remember the first time this happened, it happened to be a $30 crystal, and I'm just like, oh, fine. Reluctantly gave it away, but gave it away nonetheless. However, once you start acting ethically in regards to crystals, the consciousness, because eventually they all relate to Mother Earth, the message gets around. Hey, she'll get to the place you need to go. And people started giving me crystals, which is why they grow like mushroom, because they're everywhere. Because people will come and say, hey, look what I found. Or, you know what, I got a great deal. And I found those in a garage sale. And they'll just give them to me, because they know I will gift them back to the right person. So I have more crystal than I know what to do with now. And they're just waiting for the right owner to come along and to call them their own. So fear not. If you feel that one of your crystal wants to go on a journey with someone else, let it go. It's done everything it could do for you. And now it's time to help someone else. Some of those crystals are meant to travel, and they're meant to just, they're gypsies. They're not meant to stay in one place. Yeah. However, there is one type of crystal that does not ever leave you. This crystal is called a life crystal. Life crystals are with you for the duration of your life, and often will become generational crystals and will get passed on from one generation to the next. While we were in Shasta, California, I was there on a retreat with a group. And this retreat is really connected to the earth the entire time we were there. We're hiking all over the mountain. We're swimming in the waters. I'm really making them work for their money. And each person was able to spend an afternoon with me alone. Now, for those who don't know me, they don't think that's that special. But for those of you who do, they really enjoyed that time alone, just me and them. And so we went and gathered water, and I found a store which had changed manager, and she had discovered a box in the basement. In this box were crystals that came from Africa and had not been seen or touched for years. This woman could not explain why those crystals were not out for sale, except she just put them out for sale the day before we arrived. So one by one, I took the ladies to the store, and I made them close their eyes and sit down on the floor. Now, this is a busy store, downtown Mount Shasta, lots of people in and out, touristic season. It's quite the thing. And the beauty is that we just sat on the floor, and I gathered these crystals nearby me, and I said, now close your eyes and simply sit. And they had to hold their hands flat in front of them. And we deposited the crystals on their hands this way. And then they had to tell me, so what's going on? And they'd say, it's heavy. It's okay, so that's not the one. Then we would switch crystals and then get a different crystal. Some of them were quite big, some of them were smaller, but they all at one point connected to the point where they went, and they gasped because they felt like they were sunk into a vortex of energy, and that the energy was pulling down their spine into the earth, and they were connecting to the universe. They were seeing all these colors, and the moment was incredible. And then it's okay, and I take it away, and then I put another one, and then I eventually put the same one back, and again, they would get this immense reaction. So we knew that that was the crystal, the life crystal. Chris here, who's being quite shy in the back of the room, is then provided a crystal life reading. So what's the name of the crystal? Where is it from? What's its function? Why did it choose you? And what is it working with you? And how can you use this crystal for? These crystals can look like this one, which is a clear quartz, more of a point. This is Athena, and that belongs to Chris. We actually just recently found that this one here, which was handpicked in Peru, we now know who the owner of this one is. So for those of you who are in the video, you can see that this one has not been acid washed. So there's still sediment and other things left on the crystal. And we're allowing it to be that way. It's also kind of joined. It's kind of got two crystals growing into it. And we're allowing it to remain together. Instead of separating them, we're leaving them as a whole. And because they were handpicked, they were already broken off and separated. So we didn't break any families. We didn't detach anything. We didn't break anything. You understand? These have more power. They're stronger. They also have lots of information, which usually will hold information of the past life of this owner. It will help you connect to your Akashic record, to your past life, to all the things that you've learned in the past, and allow you to connect to all that information now. It's incredible to finally be able. And this box was literally there for us. Everybody got one. It was magical. And this one Chris found when we were in Peru, and she brought it home, and she just doesn't know why, and now we do, right? One of the person that had this crystal that we brought back from Shasta was trying to sell her house. And the house, was kind of slow, and she wasn't sure if it was going to sell. And she really wanted it gone. Like she made the decision, I'm ready, I want this to go. And I said, well, why not you use your crystal? The energy, instead of a crystal grid, now you have a life crystal working for you. That's all he needs. And this is what you want, and this is what we'll work towards. Within 2 weeks, the house was sold. So you could say, oh, it's a coincidence. Yeah. However, then she was looking for a condo but she wanted 2-bedroom condo, and she couldn't find one. All she could find was 1 bedroom. And so we said, well, why don't you put what you want, a 2-bedroom with a parking space, and put your crystal on top. 2 weeks later, she had the condo. It was waiting for her, and it was ready, and it was done, right? So a lot of the times people have crystals hanging about, and you're not using all the power that is surrounding you. So I invite you, after listening to this video and this talk, to go back and to look at all the crystals you have. How much power do you have that is, just sitting there unutilized, and determine, okay, so now what can I do with this? It's like opening a magic box, some buried time capsule kind of thing, and go examine the properties. Get to know them. Get to know them. See what they can actually truly do for you. It's a marvelous, adventurous journey as far as I'm concerned. I'm really lucky because I have the crystal expert, so I don't even bother. I'm just like, hey, Chris, and I get all my answers. Yeah, they're an incredible gift. So they're to be respected. They're to be honored. But at the same time, what they can bring you is life-altering and life-changing. So, like I said, if you're interested in working with crystal, you could join us for a Reiki class. We do that in level 3. There's also the Planet's Energy class that we're having in July, or we're having a crystal workshop, which is online. It's going to come up live shortly, and it's going to have exercise. This is not even half of the information in the course. This is really a brief summary of everything to, get you guys to realize just how much power is there and what's available. And we invite you to watch next week for the middle way of Buddha. So is there any questions? Because now we have time for questions. Yes.
Is black tourmaline
Tourmaline
the same as shungite?
No, it's not. The tourmaline is a black stone. The shungite is it's also black, but they have different properties. The shungite is used for they're both grounding energies. right? So they're both serving similar purposes, but they're two different stones. So I would say in the big umbrella, they do the similar things, but it's in the details that they differentiate. So especially if you're working with crystal grids, then it's good to know what are those alternative things that you're working with. For example, I remember that I was really trying with the divorce to cut the cords, and it just didn't feel like it was working. And I got a specific crystal that's like a sword, and it just cuts everything off. And after a month, I finally had peace. I have not needed to use that crystal since. That's how effective it's been. So, but some crystals, because they're more specialized and more specific, they act more quickly, right? You have the general contractor, or you have the guy that's, that's what he does for a living. And so he comes in and although he's very specific, he can only do this job, but he can do this job really well, as opposed to someone who can sort of do the job, but might take a little longer because you may not have all the tools or the experience, right? So you may fumble with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. John? No? Did I do well? Yes? We don't have any questions online. We have people watching, but I don't see any comments. I must be getting really good at this. And what about you? No questions?
No, I remember when I did Reiki with you, and then you gave me the stone. I picked my stone, and I had it with me for the longest time, and then all of a sudden it was gone.
Yes, I can speak to that. So, like I said, the crystals are not always yours to keep. And sometimes if you're hard of hearing and you won't let go of certain things, they'll tend to disappear all on their own. The other option is that they're very specific crystal. They want to keep working with you, but you're neglecting to recharge them, and you're not spending enough time with, connecting with them, so that they're depleted and they really need a break. And so they will disappear from the house. And, if you have kids, you'll blame the kids. If you have a dog, you'll blame the dog. If you have a cat, you blame the cat. However, I've got none of those things, and they still disappear. And so, and it's funny because they'll reappear like in the middle of the table in the dining room. Like, it's impossible that for the past week I didn't see the stone there. So it wasn't there. And I know my son's 26 years old. He's not going to start playing games with my crystals. He doesn't think that's funny anyway. So they will disappear. Where do they go? They simply go across the veil. And the fairies and the gnomes, the elves and the leprechauns and all these wonderful herb workers are recharging them, taking care of them, maybe calibrating them better. Because, like I said, some of them have been separated from their families, some of them have been acid washed, and some of them were really mistreated, and they just go get some self-care, and then they reappear when you need them, and they'll be there. So yeah, good question.
Yeah.
Yes. But don't be attached. It's not, I lost mine. It's like, it went on a vacation, or, someone else needed it more than me.
I know, because you gave it to me, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't lose it. And I was like, where'd it go? Like, it's gone.
Yes. Anything else? No? So we're gonna wrap this up. I thank you everyone for watching. And like I said, I'll see you guys next week for the middle way of Buddha.